All right, our next presenter is Jean Darnell, hailing from the great state of Texas. And I am so happy that she's here because this is one of my sister girls and she always comes through. So you are going to enjoy her presentation. Session title is When Overreach Becomes an Oversight Nightmare. Think about that for a minute, y'all. That could be a whole lot, especially in the K-12 arena. I'm making you a host now, and I will stay on until I see your screen, okay?
Gotcha. Can you see my screen?
I can see your screen. You're good to go.
Okay. Minimize that and get over here to presenting. I'm going to present full screen today. Okay, everyone, I am Jean Darnell, and as Casey said, I am coming out of Austin, Texas. And for those of you that are on social media, you might know me as Awakened Librarian, and I am originally from Houston. So if any of my Houston friends are here, of course, drop a hello. I have moved to Austin 2 years ago, and I am here to talk about intellectual freedom, specifically how it affects multiculturalism. Now, I have to say multiculturalism because I am in Texas and diversity is now taboo. So I am going to spend my time making the connections and showing you how you can use this in your school districts, on your campuses as professional development. So let's get started. I like to begin with a little bit of glows and grows, but this was, I will end with my glow. I'm going to start with my grow. Intellectual freedom. This is American Library Association's definition for intellectual freedom. And so just as a refresher, I want to bring attention to the part of the definition that says for an individual to both seek and receive information from all points of view without restriction. All points of view. That means a positive, a negative, a his or her, a conservative, a liberal, a happy, a sad, an emotional, all. Okay, and free access to expression of ideas through which any side and all sides can be questioned and explored. So here it is. This is 2021 now, okay? This is what, last year or 2 years ago? 2 years ago. This is what's happening in our libraries right now across the country as it relates to intellectual freedoms. We're in the middle of what we call the ed scare, okay? This is legitimate, it's happening. We have seen astronomical increases over book bans. Okay, just like we saw astronomical increases over diverse books before this ed scare. We went from having, what, 7% in 2012 of diverse books being by people of color to, in 2021, having 33%. So we were on the rise, but then came this challenge and this fight, this orchestrated challenge and fight against the intellectual freedoms. And it's beginning with our book bans. And so I want to address that because now I feel like, especially as a librarian who advocates for censorship and who promotes everyone being able to read anything that they want on any topic within age-appropriate reasons, but to be able to explore and to learn with freedom. So that's what I believe as a person. And so now it's under attack. It's under attack in my career, and then we'll get to further because it's going to be under attack from my culture, my group. But anyways, before we get started with that, I want to do a little poll. You can scan the QR code that I have right here. That'll take you to the poll. Or if you are on my website and you are following along, you could just click on the link. But what do you feel is the cause of the drastic increase in book bans, censorship of librarians, and the influx of House bills targeted at education on race, gender, and identity? What do you feel is the reason? Is it fear, ignorance, morals, or political advantage? And before you start getting mad at me and say, well, it's parent rights. Well, here's the thing. Librarians will tell you, parents have always had the right to send in a letter or an email and say, hey, this is what I want done for my kid as it relates to literary resources. And guess what we do? We tag it in Follett with that student's name, number, and say, in my case, I scanned a letter, I upload it, say, hey, this is what the parent wants, so that any librarian that deals with this student within my district should be able to see that note. So parents have always had that right. So that's why that's not an option. But please leave comments in the chat or vote on the poll and let me know what you think is the reason why we've had this ed scare of 2023, 22, 21, 2020, go all the way back, honey, 2016, 2012. Okay, and that hyperlink at the top is an article linking you to a resource on what ed scare is if you want to do like a nonfiction piece that relates to what's happening right now as it relates to intellectual freedom and of course book bans. So let's get started to the actual title of the presentation. I want you to see what oversight means and what overreach means. Overreach, this is coming straight from the dictionary. This is not, Jean Darnell's interpretation of it. This is pretty much what it said verbatim. So overreach, look at what the definitions are. And then please let me know in the chats if this is something that you feel is happening right now as it relates to your role as a school librarian protecting intellectual freedom. Hey, do you have some comments on what is going on overreach right now? Don't worry, if you haven't thought of it or if it's stumping you right now, I'm going to give you some resources. And then, of course, what oversight is. Okay, we know overreach is to, kind of grab power. We're just going to say power maybe that you're not authorized to do in a way, or maybe that you are authorized to do, but you're leaning towards abusing that power. So we'll use that definition today for presentation purposes. And oversight, of course, is to lapse in some type of judgment or not give failure to notice or give proper attention towards the relevant content. Boom. So these are the definitions that we're working with today. All right. So now, having said that, let's look at it. This is what an overreach of intellectual freedom looks like. Okay. And this last year alone, over 86 educational gag order bills have been introduced in this year alone. Don't tell me it's not carefully orchestrated. Because within my own state, Texas, boy, howdy, let me tell you, we did some serious fighting for this House Bill 900. And I was involved in supporting my fellow librarians, Carolyn Foote, that testified so many times for so long and waiting. Oh my gosh. Anyways, so we have a ban that's going on that our book vendors are fighting. They've already filed a lawsuit back, but basically it says that they're going to be responsible for rating anything that pertains or references to sexually explicit information. So that's what we're dealing with right now with House Bill 900 in Texas. This is how we're fighting and standing up for our rights as in intellectual freedom. But look at what's going on in these other states. In Florida, oh my gosh, don't even get me started talking about Florida, y'all. Like seriously? And don't see it's not like a personal attack, because as a Black person, I'm feeling kind of personally attacked when you're trying to turn around and say slavery was some kind of agricultural, internship. Really? But anyways, let me not go down the rabbit hole. But now we're starting to have to deal with mistruths and just straight up altering of the truth and the facts that we have known that existed, that we had tangible evidence for at that time, that has existed and gone on, where there's newspaper clippings. We have a Library of Congress that can pull up specific things that say, hey, this is what's going on in America at that time. So we know it exists. So this kind of one-sided of tinkering with our standards and looking at our House bills and saying what will equivocate to something like a librarian being arrested for checking out a resource to a kid because she may have given a harmful resource. Yeah, I'm kind of talking to you right now, Arkansas. Thank you for the judicial system out there, because they put a pump and a stop to that. But seriously, this is what we're facing, because we've had it happen here in Texas. We had librarians getting They were fired, removed from their position because they supported some books. We had protests for drag queen story time. I mean, don't even get me started on it. And Atlanta County, I hear you, I see you, because they stood up to book bans. So it's going all over the state. Okay, I don't need to ramble on, but look at some of the things that they're trying to say, the narrative that they're trying to create, because it's astounding. As a Black American, it's astounding what they're doing in Florida. Okay, what they're saying about the AP standards for African American history. I've been waiting for Texas to keep it a standard, to make it a standard to teach African American history. So it's shocking as a former ELA teacher, as a former history teacher, to see this stuff. And this is what you can do. You can partner with your social studies to talk about intellectual freedom as it's happening and as it's being attacked now as a current event. You can get this information out there. You can get it to your students and say, hey, this is what's going on, and this is what your right is being taken. What do you want to do about it? I think about all my little feisty middle schoolers who like to argue. I'm like, I want to channel that energy. You want to argue? Let's focus it and get you to argue about something that truly matters. And then you get to get that oral speak in, and I could find a future Dr. King. We never know. But yes, we need to get the students involved. These are the things that's going on right now. This is the effect of the overreach as regards to intellectual freedom and our rights, and censorship and book bans. Please take a look at it. Oh my gosh, don't even make me tell you about drag queen story time. Let me tell you a real quick story. I have a colleague. He's a wonderful person, dresses in regular clothes for professionalism, but we were getting ready to have a house rally. We're part of the Ron Clark, having house families and whatnot. And we were having a pep rally day. And his group had to do a dance performance as Destiny's Child, okay? And they were doing Survivor. He came out dressed as Beyonce, and the kids went wild. It was crazy, insane, 100% engagement. And he was just, in heels. He wasn't doing anything inappropriate. He was in heels and a vest, and he was just dancing for his house as a representative. And you know what I saw? I saw 100% engagement, students just screaming and cheering and supporting. So, and it wasn't anything offensive. It wasn't anything pornographic. It was just a joyous celebration, 100% engagement, and an ear-deafening cheer for his team. And he actually won the actual lip sync contest. So that's just the magic sometimes that goes on unexpectedly in a school when people feel like they can be themselves and accepted. Now, moving on. When does overreaching become an oversight nightmare? Oh my gosh, it's when the subject matter experts are not consulted. Oh my, if you could just click that link, it would take you to Freedom, and it will explain to you the requirements that Texas librarians have. We have to have not only our bachelor's degree, we have to have a master's degree. We also have to have certification for classroom experience. And we also have to have certification for to be a school librarian. My certification is in pre-K through 12. Okay, and then I've gone on a little bit extra and gotten my ESL certification because I am the subject matter expert when it comes to literacy. Okay, you know how doctors go to medical school? Well, I didn't quite go to medical school. I went to literacy school. And so this is why we have this oversight, because you're not allowing librarians an effective seat at the table. We are not replaceable when you have all of that qualification and how literacy is going to be taught and dissected and represented and equitable. This is what we need to talk about right now, equity. So anyways, ALA, the American Librarian Association, is of course against a lot of House bills that have been popping off this past year, and they have their own comment. All of these are hyperlinks to resources. We have authors that are speaking out: Angie Thomas, Jason Reynolds. Oh my gosh, I didn't mean to click on it. Let me go back to my presentation. Oh. You know what?
Try the tab, one
I
of the
don't mean
tabs at the
to
top.
keep playing on. Let me close this out.
Yeah, try one of the tabs at the top that
Get back to
says
my presentation, please.
Zoom.
I'm trying to cut it off and get back to my presentation. I can't see it over the bar. That's what it is.
Okay.
Boom. Okay. Back on program. But anyways, Jason Reynolds was recently on The View. He had a great, oh my gosh, this man is just like a kind of literary mecca for me when it comes to speaking out and supporting what's going on in our libraries. He's a fierce advocate using his platform. Kelly Yang is using her platform. Even former President Barack Obama came out with a 1-2 punch of supporting us librarians right now and what we've been faced with, challenged with, and responding to all of these. It almost seems like a super zealous, not jealous, zealous quest to remove anything that represents some type of acceptance. And that's what's really scary. There's a carefully orchestrated a kind of setup, so to speak, that we're fighting against. And, you know, there's an author, his name is Phil Buner. This is what he said, and I thought what he said was absolutely profound. Says our side, the literacy and the librarian side, is really good at strongly worded letters and social media rants. Okay, this is author Phil Buner. Okay, but the other side, what we're going against, is showing up all the time and all over. That's what we need to be doing, but we're not like we need to be. And that's Phil Buner that's saying this. Is not Jean Darnell, but what he's saying is true, which is why I wanted to get this message out there, because we need to be popping up and speaking to your campus and speaking to your principals and speaking to your public librarian. You can be a human living resource when it comes to intellectual freedom and protecting censorship and book bans. You are a living resource as school librarians. You can take this recording. This is a resource for you. So this is how we can fight. We can start getting the words out there, because let's just be real. We'll be honest. The data shows that 70% roughly of parents do not support the book banning. So come on now. If that's the case, you as a librarian are a parent. Get up and talk about it. Go spread it on the mountaintop. If I'm going to quote Dr. Reverend Martin Luther King, but seriously, this is what we need to do, because they strategizing. They all over the place, tickety-tack, tickety-tack, tickety-tack. And it's scary because they are affecting the change. And that's what I showed you on the last slide when it relates to all of the House bills. So anyways, coming back to my presentation, I don't want to get too long-winded. You know, I'm passionate about this, but multiculturalism, and this is how we have to look at it. I don't want to say, you know, trying to move this so I can see everything. I don't want to say the D word, because remember, that's a no-no in Texas. Multiculturalism brings on new perspectives. Okay, one's old ideas are directly challenged with new ideas. This is what I love about literacy and intellectual freedom from all sides. You get to look at someone else's world. You get to investigate and empathize with what's going on when they're able to tell their own stories truthfully. Let's put that word right there, truthfully. Because right now, with all of the state standards being manipulated to make it seem like, I don't know, I'm just going to throw this out there, like slavery again was some kind of beneficial experience to Black people, like, yeah. But anyways, like I said, I digress. But seriously, let's come back to this. You have to challenge what you're used to in order kind of to grow and evolve, if I'm just going to be honest. And multiculturalism, diversity, whatever you want to say, intellectual freedom, all of it is interwoven. And it's best if you stick to the subject matter experts that know what they're talking about, whether that's school librarians or whether that's Black people. Because seriously, we need to be consulted when you start wanting to talk about what is our history and what's important to us, but we're not seeing ourselves at the table. Maybe we are, but our voices are not being heard down to a legislative actionable measure. Okay, multiculturalism is more than race, okay, and literature. Okay, the goal is to do no harm to one another, as well as to confront the individual fears one has regarding race, identity, gender, and new ideas. Okay, this way we can evolve as a global society without the threat of freedom or our life emphasis on that life being taken away legally. What can we do? All right, this is how we're going to solve. This is how we're going to relate instead of hate. Okay, we're going to do some radical empathy, intentionally seek to understand someone's opposing ideas. You know, I have a friend on social media. Her name is Catherine. I love her to death. She gave me a wonderful piece of advice that it was just the right thing I needed to hear. She said the best piece of advice I received from a librarian as a kid was to read books about people that looked nothing like me, that came from different places, and that had different stories. She never made me feel guilty about who I was, but created so much understanding and empathy for others. This is what I'm talking about when I say radical empathy. You need to be able to read so you can relate, so you can see outside of whatever existence that you live in, just so you can understand someone's opposing idea. Okay, again, I've been saying it over and over again, listening to multicultural stakeholders. This is how we can get a standing on the fight for intellectual freedom and censorship right now. You got to listen to us being, whether that's librarians, school librarians, whether that's Black Americans, whatever it is, listen to those people who are going to be directly affected. Run for office. Come on, y'all. Let's get involved. Get civic duty. This is why this connects so well to social studies. Do your civic duty as a citizen, especially so we don't have to deal with some of the ridiculous that's going on right now in our legislation. Okay, educators, vote. Get out there. Get in your local elections, Congress, Senate, governor, mayor. I would love to see a librarian governor. Heck, I would love to see more than one Black governor. Can y'all believe that? There's only one sitting Black governor. And there's only been 5 in like the 247 years of American history. There's only been 5 Black governors, period. So yeah, get up, run for office, because I promise you, I think his name is out, and he's in Maryland where the Black governor is right now. But if he turned up and he started putting laws and legislation that for ban like the Holocaust and discussing it, because you couldn't discuss let's say if he said legislation, you couldn't discuss the Holocaust unless you talked about how America was a model for what the Nazis did to Black people. If he made that law and started passing it, do you know how quick he would be out of office? Anyways, let's go back to this. No more erasure or depletion of cultures. Okay, no one-sided educational standards. All right, kids in Colorado, they fought back. They started passing, and they were like, no, you're discriminating, you're taking my rights. They spoke up for their intellectual freedom, okay? Holding space to hurt feelings, insecurities, and organizations aimed at harming or intentionally choosing not to understand another's cultures. Yeah, I'm talking about you, moms of liberty. Yeah, so it's scary because these folks, I was just listening to Manda Jones, they're getting in touch with your address, your location, they're coming up to your door, they're harassing you, they're stalking you. And some of these people have the same conflicting interests as these groups that are attacking librarians right now. Okay, appeal laws that discriminate. I'm so proud of the state of Illinois, okay, who just said, you know what, we're not, book bans, not chill. We're not gonna do that. You're not gonna be able to enforce book bans. Librarians that start doing and taking away and pulling banned books, not here in Illinois. And that was awesome. We just need 37 other states to get with it so we can make it the 28th Amendment. But anyways, read more, challenge, investigate, heal yourself, and face your own demons. This is Tracy Hall. She's American Library Association Executive Director, and she said something that's absolutely true. I feel like history at some point is going to judge us. And I think that if we keep going in the way that we are, I think we will, as librarians, be on the right side of history. And I couldn't agree with her more. Okay. And last but not least, Marcus Garvey, what he talks about, a people without knowledge of their past history, origin, or culture is like a tree without roots. I'm a gardener. I know the power of trees. Do you know their roots communicate underground? It's amazing. Trees in a forest is like a whole ecosystem. I can go on and on. But last but not least, I want to talk about as Black Americans. We're never taught that we were descended from royalty or engineers or archaeological wonders, those beautiful pyramids, or that we circumnavigated the world. As Black Americans going through the education system, we are never given more than tragedy, overcoming tragedy, and maybe sprinkles here or there of first achievements. Okay, we're rarely seeing our reflection in global leadership so we can inspire and achieve. Okay, and why is only one side of history legal in a land that promotes intellectual freedom, liberty for all, in these United States of America? But here's the thing, sometimes Black kids like me, multicultural kids, like all the rest of the beautiful different races out there, libraries are their only choice. And now that's being taken away from them, especially in Houston ID. That's my hometown. I worked in Houston ID, and I can't even stand what's going on right there with removing our libraries, because for historically disenfranchised communities, books and libraries are the only resources that we can learn about our roots. And now the victim wants to take that away. So what's the harm? I don't get it. But I'm almost out of time. I want to wrap this up. I don't want to keep going. I'm so sorry I haven't had a chance to look at the chat. I've been going nonstop. But anyways, I am a middle school librarian, so I have to have a book recommendation. There is a riddle right there. So I want to read through it. I'm gonna click on the chat finally and see if I can, who knows the answer to the riddle? This book is absolutely good. Now, let me tell you, I love this book so much for the fantasy, for the historical fiction, for the storyline. The richness is kind of a little bit Wakanda, it's a little bit, you know, Harry Potter, just to give you other books to reference. Katrina, Underground Railroad. Yes, 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 that is the answer. So before you get all excited, I did not create this riddle. AI did. I told him to create me a riddle where Underground Railroad was the answer, and this is what it came up with. So I thought that was really cool. I said, like, you know, I'm gonna add a little bit of AI into this. So anyways, I hope that you enjoyed my presentation. I hope I was able to whet your appetite a little bit. These are the resources that I used, and I am going to kind of hush up my mouth and stop sharing my screen so I can answer questions in the chat.
Let's give Jean some love in the chat. Everybody's just been like clapping and saying amen. They're agreeing with everything that you're saying. Excellent job. Let's see. I'm trying to go up to see if there's any questions that I missed. But if you do have a question, put it in the chat, in the Q&A. Put it in the Q&A so we can see it.
Thank you, you guys. I'm starting to see some of the chats. I appreciate this so much. You guys, I was so nervous. I didn't want ancestors get a hold of my mouth when I say something too charged up, but I wanted you guys to feel the passion. Please let me know if you want to collaborate on anything IFC, and if you want to see this presentation again, or you want to, whatever it is, kind of reach out to me, social media, Awaken Librarian on the X. I am Awaken Librarian, same thing, Linktree on LinkedIn. I am Jean Darnell, but anyways, reach out to me. I have all my contact information on my website. Thank you. I think there's a question. Hold up. Oh, no, it's just a thank you and amen. Hallelujah, sister. Let's go. I'm ready to work with you. I will get out there with you. You are not alone. My heart goes out to Amanda Jones, because she's a beast and a force to be reckoned with. And I'm here to support her. I'm here to support you. Anything I can do, get involved with your local library associations for the intellectual freedom committees. Okay, so you can get some kind of ownership of what's happening in your state. Please get out there and get involved. And if there's anything I could do, offer a resource, let me know. I'm here for you. I'm excited about it. I'm ready to collaborate.
Right. Thank you so much, sweetheart. Appreciate you. And give her some love in the chat, and also go on social media, give her some love. This is Jean Darnell out of Texas. All right. For my presenters, I'm changing your role to attendee, because our next presenters are a panel.